working. As you know, we were a small part-time library, and last year we became a full-time library with full-time staff. And I think that it has gone marvelously, and we have been able to help support this town through a very difficult time, our seniors right down to our toddlers. And that's also kudos to all of you for supporting the library and showing the support that the town wants to have a vibrant and healthy library. And that's what we're doing. So thank you very much to start off.
Well, thank you.
Excellent, thanks. I can
Go ahead, James.
cover the changes. One of the major goals is to retain our quality staff, especially in times like these. So the changes we see a 12.84% change to full-time wages and a 22% increase, which really amounts to less than $10,000 for part-time wages. So that is the only increase are the wages, which files down through longevity, et cetera. So the overall increase is 29,000 or 9.99%.
Any questions for Sharon about anything? I have some questions, Sharon.
Sure.
It just shows that, with all your other materials and books and supplies and everything, you ask for zero increase. Are you truly able to cover everything you need with the budget you have?
I think it's very important at this point to make sure that I keep in mind that people are going through difficult times as far as individuals and the town, and I want to make sure that you all know I'll do my best to be fiscally responsible and make sure that I can keep in those lines. The bottom line is we can't do anything without staff. And the staff at the library, they're true professionals. And we're not keeping up to pace with other libraries in Maine. And I want to make sure that we can keep our staff that know what they're doing a great job. And if that means I shave off from here or there, then I can do that. It's not a year to be asking for a lot. It's a year to really assess what we need, and I think that's the most important thing for me this year. So I'm confident we can do this, and it'll be great.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the budget from 21 to actual, pretty much kept right in there, right? And that's really important for as far as operating expenses is you really didn't go over. You utilized your budget pretty well. There's a lot of balance there, not a lot of overage, so that's definitely appreciated. You set a budget and you stuck to it.
I try.
Great. No other questions? Thank you very much, Sharon.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody else at the library also.
So I just want to add, this is Paula. I just want to add that I think the library is doing great. Sharon's doing a great job with keeping everything moving during these COVID times. And it seems the patrons are really cooperating when they come into the library with wearing their masks. And we also now have 9 members on the Berwick Library Association. So we have finally fulfilled our goal to get a 9th member. So the Berwick Library Association supports the library and it's doing well. Thanks.
Thank you, Paula, and thanks to the association.
Next up is the planning tab. Start with on the bottom is assessing. We contract with MRI, Municipal Resources. Karen and Michelle and Mike and Paul McKinney, they do a fantastic job. I did receive a quote from IT for a new computer, and that might need to be included in this budget. even included with this budget, there still is a projected decrease of a couple percentage.
Yeah.
For planning, the wish list, I mean, when I was in planning, the wish list has been for a long time, adding an admin support. I came in as in town hall as 15 hours a week for admin support with planning. I became full-time, Jen became full-time. This position would be projected to be an admin for both planning and code. With every planning board approval comes conditions of approval, which comes, we need to enforce those conditions of approval. I also made a note that with the DEP MS4 permit, more and more is put on the planning department with every subsequent permit. The admin would help take in applications, would take over most of the stormwater coordination duties, and would be helping with violations and complaints. That's the increase of 29,640 and funnels down to the other related.
Do you have a specific job description for a new position?
I don't have a specific job description, but I can have one possibly by next week. I mean, I can utilize part of what my position was when I was first hired, so I can come to that next week.
Okay, it's helpful when you gotta create something brand new to just have it broken down.
Absolutely.
And, sorry, are we
No,
still on budget?
No, go ahead.
Go right ahead.
Um,
This is an informal workshop.
Okay.
Yell out anything you want.
All right, so I saw this in a couple of them when I was looking through the book, and I'm just curious, and the first one that's come up, 400% increase in postage, is this what we're anticipating? Is there something?
Good question. It's not from inflation, it's from a change in procedure.
Okay,
There's two things that happen with planning. One on the more of the decrease side, we're switching from Foster's, AKA USA Today now, to the Sentinel for our public notices.
yeah,
So it's much more affordable. On the other end, and it's a good idea, we should be doing this with our mailings to abutters. We are now sending it certified mail. So
Okay.
that's,
so
Yeah.
that's the cost.
That's the cost.
increase.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
That way,
There,
we hear
there's
it.
no saying they didn't.
Yeah,
never
we
got
hear
it.
from time
Yeah.
to time, hey, I didn't get the notice, but now
Yeah.
we have tangible proof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's worth it.
The other increases, we now have a full-time staff is now taking health insurance. We're decreasing contracted services by 5,000. Tammy is taking on more so we can use SMPDC less.
Okay,
And that $3,000 line is for the code car.
Any further questions, comments?
the 3,000, you say equipment maintenance, that's you talking about, oh, I see.
Code car
enforcement.
maintenance. Yep.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Okay, up next is the police department. We have Chief Town on the Zoom.
Hey, Tim?
I actually have an updated sheet for you folks. We found something, and there was just a calculation error in one of our spreadsheets. So that actually reduces the budget. Overall, there's a projected 5% increase. And this includes $60,000 for a DEA agent. And from the audit, it was recommended that we account for outside detail in a different way. So now that shows up budgeted, so it adds a $20,000 cost, but we know with outside detail, those costs are recouped. And with a DEA agent, there's a high likelihood that some, or I mean, possibly, I mean, a lot of that could be covered by the activities that they do.
The seizures they have.
How was outside detail accounted for before?
It was a special revenue fund,
Okay.
and the auditors said that it really didn't qualify as special revenue, and they wanted us to bring it into the general fund.
Okay.
nice.
Thank you.
The other changes from the retire rehire, you'll see decreases in retirement and increases in ICMA.
Question regarding that, that's the hire rehire, you have it at 100%. Isn't there still a portion that or is the policy going to be that the employee pay that percentage to Maine Municipal?
The employee is paying the percentage.
Okay, that's,
And I'll also make a note that Captain Locke dropped off a salary survey yesterday for the salaries comparing police chiefs and second in command. Still reviewing that, and it's something that I can bring next week with my findings. I have more time to look at it.
and is that regarding the 3% I think that was in there?
3% are included. They're requesting, us to look at a little bit more. If you look at the salary survey, they brought some data together and it shows where Berwick is compared to the York County region. And I can distribute that as well.
Yeah, if you get it before the next meeting to
Yep.
us, just send it out, would be
Sure.
good.
Yeah.
I had a general question in dispatch services. What is our town's percentage of paying with that with the other towns that are in for Sanford Regional? I mean, it doesn't really particularly go right to that, but I mean, I'm just curious.
I couldn't answer that one.
I don't see the other towns, I only see us.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Chief Town, did I miss anything?
I think he dropped out there.
He's,
No,
blank-
he's-
blank screen.
He's there, it says he's there, but,
We can't hear you if you're talking.
no. Any other questions on the, police department? No, I will mention though, the custodial services and building maintenance, since we, just redid the place, it has more to take care of, so,
That's, yeah, that's what I had.
That was the only other
highlighted,
note I
was
had in there too.
Building maintenance.
Yep. We're still dealing with a lot of issues left over from when it was the elementary school. Is when we were doing the renovations, we ran into a lot of existing problems that we never knew about, and that increased all our budget, but there are still a lot of things still there that need to be taken care of, just left over from, when it was a school district. I think just recently they got real toilets.
Oh, yeah, that's right, from the kitty one.
Right, they have the little kitty ones. So,
They're replacing the rear door with a keyless entry door too, that's why the increase.
yeah, on the backside.
Yeah, no, it was very late out, so I didn't have much for questions.
Still can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Tim. Oh, well,
Is he still there? I do have a
Yeah,
question.
yeah, he's
Trying to
there-
speak, but-
he's here, but we can't hear him, so I don't know what's up. I just want to say, hey, Tim, I hope you found the right thing you needed for your mother's generator. We met in the Home Depot back before the ice storm, looking for plugs. So,
Is he gone? So he's gone, okay. I just
Yeah.
have a question about the training line. He's budgeting, for what he's budgeting, he went over, and then he's, doing the same. I anticipate, based on conversations we had before, that there was gonna be a need for increased training. So I was just curious to see, is he happy with that, or is that a conservative amount for training, for the number of officers that he has?
we'll have James find out and
Yeah, I just
bring
want
it
the
back to
academy
us.
is increasing the amount of required training.
Yeah,
So-
I'll touch base with them and you can get back next week.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the police budget?
So theirs came up at 6.9.
It's actually
Chiefs need 5.3.
5%. I have an updated sheet for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, updated sheet is 5%.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Next.
Next is the fire department. I think we have one discussion point. I'll go through everything else, and then we can talk about the per diem. With the 7% increase in full-time wages. That includes the changes we expect with the upcoming union contract. I'll skip over part-time wages for now. That'll be another discussion point. There's an increase to outside services, and I'll actually defer to Chief Plant to talk about that. I guess we can get right into it. For part-time, Chief Plant requested $420,000 to fully fund a additional per diem position. You remember the discussions where this per diem position would be there for when the SAFER grant is through, and we have the full-time staff to be able to pay for when they become full-time through the grant. That's, to me, that would be, that's a $157,000 increase. My counter was $86,000. It increased that incrementally over time. But I would invite Chief Plant to discuss further about where you're at and more on the request.
Thank you. The majority of the increase, other than the manpower, as you know, we're in a new station, and a lot of our expenses have, in most cases, doubled from the old station. Our heating, the water went up, all the utilities went up somewhat, but it's all had an effect on the operating budget. As you also know, that I was in a while ago and we talked briefly about staffing. The department right now is still down. We have 26 on-call people and 2 per diems. I had, I think, 4 at the time I was in. It's been a rough year for the department, just like it has for the whole town. And I think at some point, the board and the town should recognize the first responders as to the effort they put in throughout the year. And in fact, we're still putting in, and I suspect that's going to continue probably for the rest of our careers, one way or the other. So anyways, make a long story short, I suggested to the town and to the board that we add another per diem position during the budget process. And the reason for that is there are occasions right now where I have a full-time staff person working alone, and I can't support that. He's on 24/7. I have no idea on my call force who's going to show up, who's not going to show up, and to let one person work alone these days is not safe for the town or for the member themselves. We have 1 per diem. If that per diem calls out now, I'm down to 1 person again. So the second per diem would help alleviate that and give me 2 people 24/7. Hopefully. And the intent was that as we submitted the SAFER grant, which has been submitted, it probably won't be known until sometime in July, somewhere around there, whether or not the town gets selected. But even if they don't, I have a problem with staffing, and I need help. And that's the bottom line. The manpower is the cost. Like all of you, I pay taxes too, but we need help.
So when you say you need help, is the problem recruited? Is there not enough qualified people applying?
That's an issue, and I can't sit here and say that that's not going to be an issue even if you give me that funding, but I got to have the funding to try. And yes, recruitment is an issue, whether you're talking on call or whether you're talking per diem. I just went as a department, we increased all the on-call wages to try to get them up a little bit further. We did the same thing with the per diem. Still not getting anybody. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. All I can do is try to plan and hopefully be in a position that if I get people, I can bring them on board. And it's not like it used to be, you could bring somebody in that has no training. That doesn't work today. It takes me over 1.5 years to train somebody. So now I gotta either send them out to school, which takes a year, or try to do it in-house with one guy, and it's just not working.
How many vacancies do you currently have?
Well, we had 28 on call, and I'm down to 26. Some of those 26 actually work per diem shifts for me,
Okay.
so that helps out. So I think we're using the manpower that we have the best we can, but a lot of people who not volunteer, who are now paid, the family lives have changed, the home lives have changed.
They're not
Things have
lazy to
changed.
turn out at 2 o'clock in the morning like they used to.
They gotta get up and go to work at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. But it's just not there.
So you're gonna be looking to replace those individuals with the full-time firefighters through the grant? Is that what you're hoping to do, and to increase staffing?
What the intent was when I applied for the grant, if we get that grant, is to take that funding and help support them at the end of the 3-year period.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what's gonna happen in 3 or 4 years, any more than any of us do. But that would be the plan, yes. Which would pay, I think, Lisa, probably 3/4 of the salary. We'd have to pick up the rest, but.
Any other questions for the chief on this?
The station's working out great.
Yeah, you said you got a 127% increase in materials and supplies in a brand-new building, and I'm sure there's an answer for it, but just gonna throw it out there. What, is it just,
Supplies, when you gotta build a building, you gotta clean it. All my guys, we do our own cleaning, we don't pay to have that done. But all the supplies that we used a little amount of, we're using a lot of now. Soap,
Okay.
paper towels,
Soaps, floor
no, that
wash.
makes,
No.
that makes sense, I just wanna have an answer.
No.
Yeah.
So, you have your laundry now and everything there, so.
Yeah, I mean, we do the laundry, we couldn't do the laundry over there. We do the laundry for not only the bedding, but the clothing they wear, but we have to do the laundry for our PPE.
Right, all the.
Every
all the
fire we
equipment.
come back from, structure fire, it's all dismantled, it's all washed because of cancer. That's all required to be done. So now we're just doing it more and more, so.
So this, 86,900 that James has put in here, that's half of the money that,
He's a little bit more than half.
a little more than half of what the chief had requested? How much was the request? About 110,000?
157,248 is the increase.
There you go. So,
I mean, I guess my question, Chief, is how many, so if you're looking for 157K in an increased salary, what exactly are we looking to pay off here? Are we looking to raise the current rate of what we have to kind of keep those firefighters or those that are helping you kind of in line? Or are we trying to help, because you said you've lost 2. I'm trying to think of, firefighter salary. So now you're talking, are you trying to gain 6 more firefighters?
No, we were looking at bringing on a per diem. We have one per diem now, and his was right around 156, whatever calculated out to.
Okay.
My intent was to bring on another per diem 24/7, just like we have right now, so that I have 2 of them.
Okay.
Not to add any more at this point, as far as on-call.
you know,
And then, and the goal is, if you get the grant for the full-time firefighters, at the end of the 3 years, during those budget years, you're gonna budget a little bit more, and then collapse the per diems in order to maintain those salaries.
That would be the plan.
Okay, that
I
makes
can't say totally that's gonna work out, but that would be the plan.
Best laid plans.
You don't know what it's gonna be,
You know, the chief and I talked about this a week or so ago, and about the problem of having a lone man on in the middle of the night, is the way things have changed in the last few years, it's not safe, as he said.
No, I absolutely agree.
Is,
I mean,
It's not.
We had the same discussion, quite a few years back with the police department when we started, having personnel there, because the same thing, you have a lone man out on the road at night, who knows what's going to happen. How big of an impact would it be, Lisa, if we fulfilled the chief's request, the extra money?
100%.
The percentage?
At 100, if we filled it, this 86 is not the full percentage, correct? It's only a partial, it's like half of what the chief requested?
Right.
Yes.
Right, so,
So I don't have that information right here, but I can
I
get it
gotcha.
for you.
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to see what it would cost to just, you know,
We talk more, every year we talk about, the professionalism of the
That's,
department. And,
59.8% increase.
Yeah,
is-
but you have to.
And that's not counting-
Include all the FICA and all of
Yeah,
that.
that's not
in
including
there,
the tax
because that's
implication.
all gonna change.
right,
right,
you're gonna have to, yeah, adjust,
Yeah,
so,
that's just the base salary increase.
right.
We had a total of 900 calls last year. We're already up to about 130 since January. I suspect that by the end of this coming year, we'll be up over 1,000 calls. The town's growing. You can see what's happening in the near future.
Absolutely,
Uh,
yeah.
anything else you'd like to discuss about the budget, chief, while you're
Well,
here?
if there's any questions, equipment-wise, we're doing fairly well. I do have one vehicle right now that's actually out of service because I've lost the engine. That's my aerial ladder. That's being repaired right now.
Didn't we just get that one fixed?
I'm not sure what the cost is yet. But overall, our equipment's in good shape. The guys that I do have that show up do a good job. I did get, just so the board knows, a draft copy of the NIOSH report of the incident, the firefighter death that we had back 3 years ago, which we've got to look at, send back, and then they'll officially publish that, just so you know it's coming. It's been busy. Medical aid calls are 3/4 of our calls.
Speaking of medical aid calls, how's our relationship with the ambulance service working out?
Good.
Still good?
Yep.
Good.
The last 2 storms, they sent over an ambulance without being asked. We put it in the station. It stayed there throughout the duration of the storm.
Nice.
Made it convenient, not only for them, but for us.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's what our hope was when we started building
Yeah.
it, we talked about
Yeah.
that, so.
So it's worked out over good, over a period of time, so.
Oh, good.
I do have one last question. Under training, from the 21 budget, you only used about 50% of what you projected. Is that because of COVID and everything else? Because we put in for the same amount for this budget.
Yeah,
Do you anticipate you're gonna use it?
The COVID slowed a lot of that training up
Okay.
as far as in-person and stuff. There was also funding in there to try to help my staff, full-time staff, or even part-time staff to go out and get the next level of EMS training. So that funding is there for them to do that. It's just, it didn't happen because of everything that was going on, so.
Okay, that makes sense.
Any further questions, comments?
Yeah, Lisa ran the numbers.
So it's about 16.8% overall increase as opposed to 12.7.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, chief. We have Chief Town here now.
Speaking of chiefs.
Come on in, chief.
I was,
We'll go back.
I was intentionally trying to stay away from you people. I have a house full of COVID, so
Oh,
I've been keeping my distance. And as you could see, I was trying to get my technology to work at the police
still there?
department. and
Still hanging around?
But here I am.
we just briefly went over everything.
Yep.
Is anything you'd like to add?
No, I've listened to the chief, a lot of the things that he had to say, same issues in the police
Yeah.
department, correct. As of today, there was 199 agencies listed on the Maine Criminal Justice Academy website for open jobs, and some of those have more than one, so competition is difficult. Just to give you a quick update, I did find a local individual, very nice, smart, intelligent individual that lives in town, prior military. He's at the academy right now, and he's doing well. I think you guys will all like him. And I have 2 people I'm looking at part-time. I'm not sure how those will end up. It's in the early stages of backgrounds and things like that. But We're doing okay as far as staff. It is a struggle to find people, but we're plugging along with it, so.
So the guy you have in the academy, I just saw, something out there.
The
that you had
posting.
One opening and 2 part-time reserve openings.
Correct.
So that one opening, does that include or not include the guy at the academy?
I have one still open. The one at the academy would have been the second one, so
Okay.
I'm still down 1 full-time and 2 part-time.
And 2 part-time?
Yep.
Okay, all right. And James had mentioned that you did a salary survey,
We did.
and so we just wanted to look at that because there was a request for
Yeah,
a
he-
3% increase, and they said based on it, but he's gonna send us the salary survey. What was the other thing? Oh, building maintenance, but I think we talked about
Yep.
that, even though it's been kind of renovated, there's still some issues.
Little bit things here and there, you know, tiles coming up, things of that nature. So, you know, with just little things that need to be fixed, and we're taking care of them as they pop up.
Okay.
You know, and in your extended thing, you talk about the need to, you know, to do something about the asbestos tiles and stuff, and so.
You know, they're in fairly good shape. We've had a couple water incidents, one of which was in the new booking area. We've had 2 occasions. One was in the summertime, very heavy rain, and then just recently with heavy rain and ice in the back. It literally flooded the interior of our new booking room, and it went into part of the old portion of the building. The old portion is where I'm obviously most concerned. It is asbestos. They are down. We keep them sealed with wax and stuff best we can, but over time, we should probably think about getting that stuff taken care of. All of the older green tiles, if you come in, those are all asbestos. But they're in decent shape, so,
Okay. Your training budget, same thing.
yes.
It was down, usage was down, I think, just because of COVID and everything else. But you have it up just a little bit. Is that gonna cover the additional training needed for, 2 full-time people and 2 part-time people?
It is. A lot of the stuff we're able to do in-house. So when he gets back from the academy, he'll still have an FTO program. I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of instructors on our staff already, so a lot of the stuff we can do, like I said, in-house.
So you don't have to send out?
No, in fact, we actually take people from other agencies occasionally to get certified in, say, TASER, ASP, OC, spike mats. Again, we're fortunate to have those people on our staff, so. Yep.
Any other questions or comments for the chief?
I'm just gonna say I appreciate how thorough this was going through this the other day, and for my first time going through like the line by line, and
Yeah, appreciate
as
that.
James knows, I'm a big pie graph person, so you know that's always that's always helpful. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not so much. I do my homework on the back of paper.
Well, trust me, I had stuff written down.
Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
it's
How are you doing with recruiting? We don't in the fire department, but is it,
It's, you know, it's very, very, very difficult. Almost every day, I would say every day at this point, we're getting advertisements from other agencies. They're posted on the main chief's website. There's just so many opportunities for people to go anywhere they want in the state.
In
So,
the country,
correct.
you know.
I have to be honest with you, it's very, very difficult, and it is concerning. I'm looking long-term. You know, I don't see this turning quickly, and you know, going through, I mean, I've been over a year now with one of those positions open, and it's just really, it's kind of like looking for a diamond.
do you think that's
Very
the general
difficult.
thing? Do you think that the town is competitive?
I mean, the guys, I really don't have much to offer. If I brought you in some of these advertisements, some of them, there's just no way I can compete. For example, you know, when they're offering literally $20,000 signing bonuses, lateral entry, you know, a lot of the larger communities can pay more. So again, a person that's looking to get into law enforcement, and if they can get through the background and stuff like that, they can pick anywhere they want to go. So I have a huge hill to climb when I'm trying to get somebody to focus on the Berwick Police Department. I hope that answers your question. It's tough and it is concerning. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Did you ever find the
I
outlet you
did, I
need?
did, thank you, yes.
Yeah, yeah, the one we found worked for me too.
It did?
So,
Yeah, we were fortunate that day, actually, yes, yeah.
very, thank you.
Did you have to use yours, though, is the
No,
question? All right, me
No,
either.
I tested it out now.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chief.
So, thank you, Chief, and thank you, Chief.
Yes,
Thank you.
yep, you're very welcome.
I appreciate you taking a swing down too.
And sorry for the delay again.
No, no problem.
No, not at all.
No problem. It's a budget workshop.
Have a good day.
Good night.
Thanks, Chief. Hope everybody feels better.
Okay, next up is recreation.
Hey, Angela.
She there? Oh, there she is.
guys.
Hello, Angela.
So there's a 5% increase, well deserved for the department head, and part-time increase, there's a 37.8%. That helps to cover the programs, and now there's a part-time programmer, and a big chunk of that, Angela went out and got a grant for her program. I'm sure she'll get into it in further detail. And that is reflected in the FICA Medicare retirement, or ICMA, et cetera. We've been investing, the buildings and the grounds maintenance at Memorial Field, and we can start seeing the fruits of those investments. The other change you can see, there at the further down in the rows, you'll see there negatives of specific programs. Angela had requested to put those into larger buckets. So, for example, Halloween party, it's reflected more into special events, I believe, and things like that. So the sports, instead of having boys basketball, girls basketball, it's now in youth sports.
So you're just consolidating the headings into larger groups, is that it, Angela?
Yeah, it's just easier that way. And eventually I'd like to become a self-sustaining department. I'd like to show you guys a little presentation that I put together to explain a little bit of what my thought process is and how we could move forward in our department, and kind of just what we do overall, because I've had this, just because recreation kind of has been on that back burner for such a long time here, and having somebody in the position that actually has been in the field for a long time and can see what needs to happen, I really want everybody to understand it wholeheartedly. And if I could share that with you guys, that would be great. Can you guys see my screen?
No,
Not yet, no.
no, not yet.
Great. So,
Yep, here we go.
There we
We got
go.
it.
so I gotta go back a couple slides. Hold on a second. All right.
Here's some dirty.
So this is, we're Berwick Parks and Recreation. I know that it just says recreation, but we're really Parks and Recreation because we encompass Memorial. We're working on Penny Pond Trail. We're trying to, build upon Great Falls. And, before Steve left, he handed me the 11-acre parcel over on Little River. So those are some things that we're really looking forward to, really looking at trying to explore and how to build it and how to maintain it and how to sustain it. And Parks and Recreation is really different than any other department in this town. And it's like that anywhere you go. We have to collaborate with so many different people in the town. Obviously we're working with the town manager, our recreation commission, our youth organizations, the school district, which we've been able to rebuild that relationship really strong right now. And all of our, part-time recreation people that come in, I have Rebecca and Chris that do programs off to the side. And then obviously we have Public Works and Public Safety who come in and, you know, I couldn't do my job without these guys. And Sharon at the library, again, I couldn't do my job without her as well. And then you guys as a select board. You know, our whole mission is to improve the quality of life here in Berwick, and that again has been at the back burner of a lot of things that have been happening. It's always been focused on summer camp and not really expanding beyond that. There's little programs here and there, but we really need to encompass everything. We got to look at the bigger picture moving forward, especially with how fast this community is growing. It's growing so fast that we can barely keep up. Again, you know, we help create a community and improve the quality of life in Berwick. And it's not just Berwick. We help with all of MS 8060, which is Lebanon and North Berwick too. Our biggest thing is, you know, managing and maintain the facilities right now. Walking in to seeing what I had seen was really tough, and I didn't have any direction. I had no maintenance plan, I had nothing, and to be able to be in the position that I'm in right now has, you know, I'm really thankful for it. A lot of the money went towards the fields, like James had said. We worked with, you know, I've worked with Jody a lot. Thank you, Jody, for always being there for me. And it's taken a lot to get to where we are, and it's going to continue to take a lot to move forward with kind of where we were at, because we were kind of stuck in 30 years ago. You know, these are the committees that we work with. You know, everybody has their own committee that they work with. You know, I work with all the youth sports to help schedule their field time out at Memorial. We've implemented a permit system now, so people have to apply online, and then it comes through me, and then I have to approve it before they can get online or to use our facility. I've also implemented a user fee for our field, and I'll talk about that later. In this past year, despite COVID, we were actually able to offer 40 activities, and not programs, it's activities, and processed close to 1,000 registrations, which is huge. You know, in the times that we've been struggling, kids and families have needed something, and like Sharon has said, you know, we've had to provide something, and even if it's just something little, we've had to provide it to, you know, help this community keep moving forward. You know, how we do it, we build community relationships and partnerships. That is so critical. People are always like, oh my God, I can't believe how many meetings you go to. Well, if we don't have our meetings, we can't build these things. And it's really important to build these things, especially if you want to build a close-knit community. Listening to people, you know, we're working hard. I would love more staff, like James said, a part-time staff, eventually, hopefully a full-time staff. And we have to promote ourselves, and it's really tough sometimes when you're a one-person department to try to promote yourself because you're too busy putting out fires and trying to, you know, make the ends meet and doing everything that you're gonna do. Like, there have been times where I've told James that I'm drowning. I can barely, you know, see the surface just because there's just so much happening and it's happening so quickly. But we're getting through it. You know, how do we pay for it? And we've been going back and forth on this, and it's been interesting to see how things have transpired from the history of it. Like in fiscal year 2021, the general fund budget was $120,000. And Lisa came in and she used the special revenue account to bump that up, which is great, because this is $120,000 for a recreation department is kind of pennies when you're looking at all of it, especially since this was pretty much how the whole department functioned. And then the total operating budget this year has been 263,000. And we haven't used any of the special revenue for that. So going into the future, there's a vision, there's goals to obtain. There's, we want to see things grow, and it's going to grow fast. And like I keep telling my summer staff, just buckle up and be ready, because we're in so much need right now. And it's across the country. It's not just with Berwick. Parks and Rec, because of the pandemic, has just soared off the charts. We're growing and it's not going to stop anytime soon. And so what does success look like? More user groups to use the facilities that we have, the recommendations of the feasibility study and master plan, and to implement that and the strategies. More community outreach, programs for all ages, more partnerships. I have a meeting tomorrow with Pine Tree Institute. They actually help collaborate and do a lot of mental health first aid stuff with youth. And Great Works Land Trust and Coastal Riptide is actually going to help us with grounds maintenance this year. And they're going to donate some turf to put into the batting cages. Our ultimate goal is to be a self-sustaining department so we can offer more programs and more free community events, sustainable maintenance plan for our parks and green spaces, and adequate staffing. When we look at our special revenue account, we're looking at numbers. If we implement the user fees, I have it out here, we're implementing $10 per person. So you look at baseball, and baseball's they bring in about probably over 200 kids, but I just give a rough estimate of 200. So for a season, we'll be able to take that $2,000 and put it into the special revenue account and utilize it eventually for field maintenance. So if we do this all throughout the year, we can get a total of around $6,000 that can be dumped back into helping our fields, which is huge because Berwick right now pays for all of that stuff. And everybody uses it, Lebanon and North Berwick. So this is huge for us, and especially with the maintenance that we have. And then camp registrations. I have to go up in camp registrations this year. It's just what it is. Typically, Funtown was like $18 to get in. Now it's $30. So transportation fees, it's like $1.50 a mile. And we have to pay the bus drivers, and they're $20 an hour on top of the $1.50 per mile. And we're not going to do what we did last year because it was absolutely horrid staying at one place all summer long. We were with the kids more than the parents were with the kids. And it's tough to have high schoolers and college, young adults working with kids more than they're with their own parents. So we're looking at, if we're charging out what we have right here at a minimum number of campers, we're coming in at about 96,000. If we're doing a max, we're at 175,000, close to 176,000 that will get put back into the special revenue account. Eventually, I'd like to have all these programs be like this. Every program, this is just an example of our basketball program, just the league. And we were able to bring in $11,850, but our expenses were over $9,000. But it's self-sustaining because every registration that came in is pretty much paying for the program. And then our fiscal year for our operating budget, I tried not to go up in the budget because I was really, for the general fund, I was being very cognizant of the taxes and everything else that has been happening. But in the general fund, you know, it supports obviously my salary. But eventually in the future, I wanted to support a full-time recreation supervisor, which could be a program or two. And then a facilities maintenance employee, whether they're part-time or full-time, because you can always use a facilities maintenance employee and a program staff combined, which is super helpful. And we'd be able to kind of pull that off. But
Just a
again,
quick question.
yeah,
Right now, the maintenance is done by the Public Works, right?
it is. Yep. It is.
Okay,
And
so,
it's tough because they try to do it Monday, is it Monday and Wednesdays or Mondays and Thursdays, I think is when they mow. Something like Mondays, Thursdays, Jody. I have been taught how to mow the lawn, so this year I'll be able to hop on it and mow. But eventually we'd like to have somebody that could dedicate themselves to that facility because it is a big facility, especially with the purchase of the 3 acres. We're gonna need much more help in that.
would this be a year-round position or just for the summertime?
Yeah, it could definitely be a year-round position because what you can do with a facilities maintenance employee, like a parks employee, is you could divvy it up. You could have them in the summertime take care of, or the spring and summer, take care of the fields and the trails and stuff like that. And then in the wintertime, that person could be that aide, that program aide that goes and refs games or goes and runs like kids night out or goes and helps in other programs that need the help. I've seen other departments utilize a staff like that and it works wonders, especially for a smaller department. So, do you have any more questions?
Nope, I'm good, continue.
Okay. And then our general fund should support our maintenance and equipment for all municipal parks. It's really important for the community to see what we're doing. I hear a lot from the community, you know, the town has said this and, but they're not showing it. And you, like when I go back and I look at the history, I can understand why they feel that way in this department. Because there really hasn't been any improvement on things. And now it's time. It's time to show our community that we care and that they need to see us move forward and, you know, take care of the facilities that we have because we do have a gem sitting right here in town. And then partial funding for our free and community events, like our Easter egg hunt, our trunk or treat, our holiday parade, and our tree lighting. Like that should be the core of our general fund. And then eventually, like in the future, and with what I'm asking for right now is to pay for our summer program staff because that shouldn't come from our general budget. It should be built into our program fees. Our program fees should cover our staffing. It should cover our expenses. It should cover all of that stuff. But since we're starting to go that route, we got to start somewhere. It should pay for our software system and our credit card and banking fees. So when people go to use their credit card, they don't get an additional fee tacked on. Because we want to limit people coming into the department, especially when there's only one person. I don't want the town, like the people at the front desk, to have to worry about people registering for summer camp for my department. It's Park and Rec should own that piece and not hand off that responsibility to other people because they have plenty of stuff to do. You know, and this fund also should help out with the free and community events. You know, program trips for all ages. And again, this is futuristic stuff. But all necessary equipment and supplies. This would include like crafts, you know, all that stuff that we need for camp. And the good thing is the rats got to all of our stuff last year. So I bought all new stuff last year, so I don't have to do anything like that this year. I might have to get a few things, but not a lot. And it should also help support the field and green space. And the scholarships should come out of this too. And everything else that's not supported by the general fund. And then, you know, the community continues to ask for more, and our little department of one and a bunch of part-time staff, we're up for the challenge, and we want to make things better in this community, and they deserve it. So that's a wrap. Sorry for being long-winded. But I just wanted you guys to understand where I'm coming from and what we're trying to do here, and kind of bringing things back around full circle.
So you mentioned user fees for the Memorial Field. Can you explain what those are, please?
Yep. So user fees, it's $10 per fee, and it will get dumped back into our special revenue account, where we'll be able to access that to help with maintaining the field. So I had spoken to the baseball crew, I think it was a few weeks ago, and talked to them about it and how, you know, user fees aren't for us to supplement our maintenance line. It's to add to our maintenance line. And everybody seemed to understand it, and it was a great meeting, and I was really thankful for it. They understood how it would work and how it benefits. It would help pay for, you know, the groundskeeping that needs to happen there. It, you know, it will help, you know, keep with anything that breaks. We have an approximately $280,000 irrigation system that's at our field. And, you know, we did all the repairs that we could to it last year, but it is almost 30 years old. So those are certain things that we're looking at too. And we have to start building that bucket, because the town of Berwick shouldn't have to be responsible for that whole cost eventually coming down the line.
So is it $10 per youth, $10 per
kid? Yep. So each organization will take care of that. Each organization will count their rosters, and they're building it into their registration fees. So what baseball has done is baseball has added the $10 into the registration fee, and then they have a little description of why it is what it is. And hold on, I can pull up that description for you if you give me a minute.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add in while we're waiting for her to bring that up, that, you know, is more and more people have been using the recreation facilities, you know, and the more it gets used, the more people want to use it. So this is something I've been expecting, you know, for several years to have, start having a big increase on this.
Well, and the user fees are minimal.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Right,
and,
well, that's
and I mean,
always been a
it
problem.
really is. And
Yeah,
to keep
yeah.
that maintained, it's going to save so much more money in the long run by just staying up with it versus having to overhaul the whole field. I guess Angela's pulling that up. So when we add in the extra, you know, 3 acres down to Memorial Field, how much is it going to cost us to expand the irrigation system? Because that's going to be a lot of money to get down there
Yeah,
too. So
3
this is going to be a
acres.
part that we're going to have to start planning for now.
I think we ought to be putting some money
Yeah.
away, you know, every budget season
Yep.
for future.
But we haven't gotten to our capital improvements budget yet.
I'm just saying, you see where this
Yeah.
is going.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the capital improvement budget yet, but.
I have it on my other laptop. I don't have
Oh,
it
No
here.
worries.
We'll forgive you
We
this
got you.
time.
I can send you what I sent them though.
Yeah.
It pretty much explains how Berwick is taking the hit for taking care of our field. And we have Lebanon and North Berwick utilizing our fields because it's all Noble youth.
Yep.
It's not Berwick youth. So it encompasses all of MS 8060. So we have Noble Youth Baseball, we have Noble Youth Football and Cheer, and we have Berwick Youth Soccer, but Berwick Youth Soccer increased their registration by a lot. They had over 300 kids in their program last year, and that encompassed Lebanon and North Berwick too. So there's a lot of kids that are playing on our field
Right.
that
Yeah.
aren't residents of Berwick. And that's kind of where that's what it explains, is that Berwick is pretty much taking the hit, and we need to balance that out somehow, because we can't take taxes from North Berwick, and we can't take taxes from,
Right.
Lebanon, because that just isn't how it works.
Right. Yeah,
So
and
how many,
okay.
sorry,
No,
how many, user fees do we think that based on previous years, how much do we think that we're going to get this year?
this year I'm thinking that we may get $6,000. And that's between baseball, soccer, youth football, cheer, and possibly lacrosse. We're mending that relationship now. So it's a minimal, it's just a tiny bit
Right.
of what is gonna go back to that maintenance. But it's a start.
And $10 really isn't much for a season, you know,
Mhm.
for a kid to play for a
No.
season, you know?
Right,
No.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I noticed on here that you mentioned a couple of times in your presentation about all ages. Because
Yes,
when people think Parks and Rec, they think, oh yeah, kids' sports, kids' baseball,
Yes.
soccer, all that. And I noticed in the budget you added adult activities and enrichment
Yep.
and those kinds of things. Where it comes up is, are we currently doing any of those for seniors or anything like that? Or is that in your planning for this upcoming year to sort of expand Parks and Recs to include all?
yes. Yeah, Sharon and I met yesterday about this.
Yep.
And she is gung-ho about really involving the seniors, and we talked about doing more stuff with the 55 and plus. And, maybe possibly starting, looking at senior trips, or, like one of the things that I had suggested was Cabbage Island, because there's a clam bake out there and they can take the ferry out there, and it's like this, seniors love it.
Yep.
I've done that trip before. We've talked about different things that we could do just to start, to see if we can gather people and kind of go from there. Sharon's got great ideas and a great vision for what she wants to see happen, and I'm really looking forward to working with her.
Yeah, and I know Angela and I have talked about that a lot, where it seems
Yeah.
to just fall off, and I know Angela's big in that
Yeah,
vision of
and we do-
what it does look like as a whole for the community too.
Yeah, and we do,
Yeah.
as the town expands.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say 6,000 for user fees and Parks and Rec is expanding, just look at the planning board and how the population and all the apartments and condos that are being built for families, it's only gonna get bigger. But I also don't wanna lose the fact that we still have a lot of 55-plus people that have lived in Berwick for years, and it'd be really nice to put things out there for them that are strictly for
Yeah.
them. And so that they
Definitely.
understand, and that just sort of brings in more support if it reaches out to them as well.
100% agree. And that's what, Sharon's a big advocate on that, and it's been really great to work with her and her great ideas that she has, and she really wants to push it, and she's been attending a lot of meetings to try to figure out what we can do and how we can move forward with it, and we'll do it. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
The other thing in here, you have outside services.
Yes.
Budget and actual, you went, 5835 to 71,000. What was that the purchase?
Yeah, that's the park.
That's the park.
Our outside services are like LaPierre, the septic, Modern Pest, our rat people, and Tom Irwin, SDS, SDS. These guys are specialized in doing field work and sports field.
So
Um,
you had budgeted, in 2021 around 58, and you went to 71.
I didn't
I think
want
that was before
I just
Angela.
came here.
That was
Angela, that was before her.
This is my commercial field budget.
Because I'm like, now you gotta go back to 8,000, I'm like, what, yeah, that doesn't make, math doesn't work for me. But I get it, this is, so BA, before, okay.
Some of that chunk,
Before there was a full-time wage line there.
some of that was to fund the feasibility study.
That was performed, okay, that makes sense to the feasibility study?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right,
And that was also when Steve had done all of the groundskeeping for,
The
so
baseball.
what they did before I came on was they did a bunch of baseball work, like
Mhm.
they did a bunch of field stuff that had to be done, that hadn't been done in forever.
It's never been
Um,
done.
Yeah.
It's never been done.
So it was a lot of money to dump into that, and then I came in and I dumped more money into it. Just trying to get it to a level where we can start to maintain it instead of really giving it CPR and bringing it back to life.
okay.
No, and you can definitely tell you guys have done a lot of work down there, and Angela, what you put in there, and then even Jody with your crew, and I know Public Works is tapped too with everything else they're trying to do, but to put a focus back over to the field, and I from other parents looking at sports and seeing what's on there too, you can definitely tell over the years that there's been an investment, and I know the families are enjoying it, and I'd hate to lose sight of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Was there any consideration for doing a split job with Public Works?
I almost thought about that too.
Just because if you have a full-time employee and you're gonna use them 50% during your rec heavy season, could it be a divided 50% rec, 50%, Public Works, so that in the wintertime, when they need
We'll
extra
shovel
help
for Jody.
for sidewalks and plowing and all of that stuff, they could be redirected there. I understand that you said you could use a full-time for the
Yeah.
programming and stuff, but we gotta get to that point. Is there any, any possibility of looking at a split under a new employee under,
We hadn't considered it.
just, that way there's not a hit to,
Good.
100% is a hit to the town, I get that. But it's just
Yeah.
divided out,
Because I know, I believe Public Works is asking for a maintenance crew type position too, right? So we'll get into that when we discuss that. So.
right, so maybe some sort of a job share.
I think both recreations and Public Works are looking to grow, where rec is looking for Parks and Rec, and Public Works looking to expand more into highway and facilities.
Right.
And we're trying to make those incremental steps over the next few years.
Okay.
Any more questions or comments for Angela? I'll just throw in at the last minute is, you can notice a definite difference down at the field. I know that this fall when I walked around down there, it had the best turf I've ever seen anywhere in Berwick. So it was a pleasure to walk around.
That's great. Thank you, Tom.
All right, well,
Have
thank you.
I got one more question.
Okay.
Have you given any consideration, and I don't know where this would go, but maybe working with, once the edge of everything is over here, is maybe getting sponsorships from local businesses for parts of some of the programming or maintenance of the field?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's part of the partnerships that I want to grow in the future, and really selling it and really trying to make it more of a community engagement, like everybody's just involved in how we keep things going. And eventually, also too, down the road, I'd love to do memorial benches too. To have some kind of thing along our walking path that we'll eventually have up at the field, but to have an ability for people to purchase benches to put memorial benches along that could be unified with what downtown's gonna look like.
Yeah, we're working on that as you speak.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So,
Yep.
We have a design in mind, I'll share it with you tomorrow.
That's awesome.
All right, well, thank you, Angela.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night. Last and certainly not least, we got Jody here with Public Works.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
how you doing, Jody?
Good so far?
We won't beat you up too bad tonight.
So
Okay.
overall, there's a 2.83% increase to Public Works and a 0.93% increase to the transfer station. There's a modest increase to full-time, bringing up the department head, and some of the increases, there's some step increases for some of the full-time staff. To go down, one of the biggest changes is actually a decrease in salt of 20,000. That's what helped to offset the budget to keep it to that 2.83%. As I mentioned, I'll just restate it. Jody has expressed a desire to expand Public Works. We didn't fund the position he asked for this year. It's something that I think for next year we can start looking at, where there's a highway component where Public Works takes on more of the road construction, takes on more of the road maintenance, and then there's a facilities department that handles more of if our bathroom floods or if there's a light that goes out, they handle more of that. Also worth noting, what's coming down the line is our population has exceeded at 7,500. So now that means we're going to be responsible for salting and plowing Route 4, Route 9, Route 236. Part of the capital improvement plan, Jody requested an expansion of the Public Works garage. And that's something we get into next week. I'm proposing we fund half of that just to be ready for when we have to buy more, we have to have more vehicles to be able to plow that extended. We want to make sure we have room to put the trucks and vehicles, so aligning that's going to be important. Hopefully we can push off taking the roads to 2024 if it's possible, if becoming for not this upcoming summer, but the next actual calendar year 2023.
So fiscal 24?
Fiscal 24.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, DOT will work with us. They're at least, they'll give us that where they'll make sure it aligns with our fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, they supply us with so much per mile, but it ends up being
Half of what we need probably.
less than one added staff for.
Yeah. And Jody and I talked about a little bit about this before. Is you had said something we're probably going to need bigger trucks, Jody?
Yeah, a couple pickup trucks are, they're in the wind at this point, just the way the pandemic's affecting everything. I got a feeling this Canadian border thing is gonna affect the delivery dates as well.
So when you say bigger trucks, are we then talking about even further down? Because we had this conversation back several months ago about the Public Works building doesn't really
Barely fit
house.
what we have.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't, barely, you can't get them through the door.
Right.
So are you looking at, new facilities in your 5-10 year planning?
No, that's
How's these these new trucks?
Well, because of the added mileage and the size of the roads, we're going to be expending a lot more time just transporting salt and sand.
Yeah?
The expansion, you said we'd talk about that next week, but we might as well talk about it a little bit now. Do you have plans, Jody, or just an idea?
As far as the roads or the
building.
Public Works buildings themselves, or?
The Public Works building, you want to expand the garage, do you have a definite idea of what you want to do, or?
We kind of got a layout. I mean, we talked about some capital improvement funds. I don't know. That'll be next week's conversation, obviously. I'm not sure that's gonna be able to fund the biggest ideas we need for that expansion. We talked about, we got a plan anyway. We got a a bid and a price on what we're kind of looking at this point. But that all could change as well,
Yeah, of course
obviously,
it will.
with inflation and everything else and price of goods and stuff like that.
Yep. So, so, anything else, Jody, that, no, really, that you want to bring to our attention?
We just, James talked about a facilities department, maybe next year. I know 2 or 3, public works guys, they start mowing in April and, we're mowing pretty good right until the end of July. So that's 2 or 3 guys out of the 6 that I have. We're gonna look at possibly getting some summer help, through Angela's school program. She's got some good ideas
Nice.
there that we talked about with her. And maybe have to run an ad for some summer help as well, to help us through it.
Any other comments or questions for Jody?
Just comments, and again, this is just off the top of the head. I have a colleague that works in another municipality, and one of the programs that they're looking at now, when you talked about getting some summer help, was that we have a lot of seniors in the town, and, some of them work, quote-unquote, volunteer, and what they do is they get tax credits. So if they assist with Parks and Rec, if they mow the lawn or the cemetery, in this particular case, and they do that for a summer, they might get a percentage off their taxes. And it helps them because they're not really getting income, but it's not really a full-time or even, they're doing cemeteries. It might be something that we want to look at, especially for you, if it's, mowing, obviously you're not looking for the major plow or anything like that, but maybe possibility of some of the mowing, some of the upkeep of the smaller cemeteries or just main area. There's some people who are retired who are quite fit and might be interested in something like that. I don't have all the details, I only just heard about it in a side conversation with them.
I should have to say, I'd
they're
be very
looking
curious
into
to
it.
see how they implement that.
Yeah,
because-
I'm very familiar with the volunteer program.
and reverse of tax credits,
Yeah, I'm familiar. I can present something next week.
that would be
yeah.
great, because that was the first time I'd heard of it, and I thought, wow, it's
Yeah.
a great opportunity, and it keeps them active, it keeps them out there. And you're talking about, trying to get some help, that it doesn't quite hit the budget that much,
Saco has a good program.
Yeah, I think it might have been, because it was someone in the county that was talking about it, and I thought, wow, that's a great idea, that you can figure it out, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? I
Can I
got
just
one
say
totally.
something quickly?
Oh.
I think the tax thing would be really beneficial if we could get somebody to do the field to relieve Jody's staff from mowing our field to help him with the things that he needs to do. Because it takes about 8 hours to mow that field.
Right, so if someone does it, over 2 days because they're
doing
65
it,
and they're still
yep.
fit to do it, and
Yeah.
it also keeps them connected mental health wise to the community. Gives them a little bit of a tax break, you get what you need done, and
They're
I just
vested.
think it includes them a little bit more. However, like I said, I don't know all the details, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something that we could look into.
Definitely. It's unrelated to anything
I
else,
can get that
Jody.
for-
Unrelated to anything else, when will you be looking at posting roads for closure?
Well, that'll depend on the spring weather, if it comes sooner or later. I think we went pretty early last year because we had a late winter. Usually
Yeah.
middle of April, April 15th, somewhere in there, but, again, if the warm weather comes in March,
Yeah, we've been doing it in March, lately, because the weather's getting warmer and warmer. So I figured with all this warm weather we had, we'd be looking at it soon, because I noticed all the potholes forming. So, any other questions, comments for Public Works? No,
I just want,
Yep.
can I make a comment?
Sure.
To Jody, the library really appreciates all your work with removal of snow and the ice and the culvert around the library, getting the leaves out. You guys are great. And it's it is really, really wonderful, and kudos to what a great public works department we have in Berwick. I can't say enough, and we really appreciate it. My patrons appreciate it too. So thanks so much for taking good care of us.
Thank you, I'll pass that along.
Yeah, and I was just
Yeah, I
gonna make
agree.
another comment is, I had somebody make a comment to me about the area where you go in, after to get sand, afterwards in that area that's off to the side. It was an older person who just said, I really like that new area because it keeps you away from that big, huge, intimidating building where you're pulling in with your backup truck and stuff.
Yeah.
It's clearly marked, you can get right in, fill up your little, 5-gallon bucket and pull out. And the fact that, I had some people make comments about, well, it's not open. I'm like, every
It's-
time I've gone down
yeah.
there, I've seen that gate open. It's always clearly marked, and especially after a storm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just think that's a really good service for the town. And to put it over on the side like that, I thought was an excellent idea.
Anything else?
Next week, we have some to-dos, and I'll be in with, next week with, some summaries to be able to get the word out and help I think for the general community, some pie charts. And some other data. and
Very
graphical
visual
ways to
person.
Share what the budget looks like, what the increases are, and where they're coming from, things like that.
All right, very good.
Oh yeah, we can go over transfer station. That was a
Refuse.
refuse, it was a 0.93% increase, 1% increase in part-time wages. I think the hauling cost has gone up, and the cost of recycling has gone up again.
Yeah.
Have we gotten any feedback about the fees increasing January 1st?
I haven't heard anything about fees.
I haven't
No,
either.
Hokie said it hasn't been a problem as far as I know of.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, and again, when you think about the people who have to pay that, for what those fees were, it was a very minimal.
Oh, yeah, that's what
So.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I thought that one was pretty
I guess
straightforward.
that wraps us up. So I guess we're still officially in a meeting because we never did anything. So we have a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, second. Or
Is all
make a
those-
motion to adjourn, yeah, sure.
Yeah. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you,
Have a good night,
everybody.
everybody. Thank you.